Hey, how's it going? And today I'm going to be getting 2 engine blocks ready for a rebuild. I've got big updates for this car and it's going to be sick and make a lot more power. I've got to take an engine completely apart because I'm running out of blocks that don't have problems with it. I have 2 right here that I've already checked. Got one here. It looks very good on the cylinders, but it does have 2 bolts that are literally snapped off into the block. So that's something I really don't want to deal with because once this comes out, it's probably not good threads inside. So I'm gonna have to move to the next one. Next one, this one, very good. Other than one cylinder, the actual cylinder wall is very damaged. So that one's also no good. So that's just a parts dummy. So I have 2 or 3 more blocks in different variation spots in my shop property. So what I'm gonna do is go and see which ones are actually gonna work for me. So here's my plan. My plan is this car has a bone stock front engine and I do want to change that. I have rods already. I have pistons on the go, all top end stuff. Like I'm gonna be building a 600 horse engine. Like we're gonna make this thing move. So with the both engines being them built, this car's really gonna kick this thing. And I'm going for over 1,000 horsepower between the 2 engines. So that will be so sick. I'm gonna get right into it. I need to put all my tools into my daily driver and take my tools to the engine that I need to rip apart because I'm alone and I cannot pick up the engine myself. So I'm just gonna take the heads off, take the crank out, pistons out, and then I can actually move it by myself and not have any issues with my back. I'm gonna take my welding table with me. All right, I'm gonna get it onto my car. Pretty much the main tools you need that are a specialty for taking the engines apart is a 12 millimeter one of these guys. I don't even know what they're called, but they send the actual head bolts off. So that's all you need to basically get it apart, other than your basic socket set. Oh yeah, so this is the toy chamber, top secret spot. Keep all my good stuff in here. So this engine is a KLG4. It's actually a real badass engine. It has solid lifters, which most of the KL platform doesn't. So it doesn't have HLAs. These don't compress. These are actually solid. So that's really cool. The only thing is if you want to flip cams, you have to shim to get them actually to fit tightly, right? So I'm gonna rip this apart and use the block if the block's good. About a year ago and a bit, I was 2-stepping really hard and I threw a rod. It didn't come out the block, so hopefully the block's okay. I think I just bent a rod real bad or something along those lines. So I'm gonna rip it apart right now and find out. Just give her a good little wiggle, and out she'll come. Wow, pistons look pretty good. Like I said, this engine made quite the knocking sound once I got off the 2-step in Michigan. So now we'll find out what it's like on the bottom end. I'm assuming that a rod is gonna be actual like tacoed or something, but it did run. It ran fine. It just had a really loud knock. The valves actually look fine. These are the cleanest valves I've ever seen. So if you don't know much about the KLG4 are actually the newest KL generation. They have pretty much the best of the best if you wanted a bone stock block. So keep that in mind when you're doing a build as well. All right, I got the engine flipped onto its side so I can see the actual studs for the actual rods. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna unbolt each one, take the cap off, then push the rod and piston out the top of the engine on this side, and then put the cap back on because the caps and rods are not reusable unless they are with the original set it was with, because it's actually balanced from the factory. So if I do want to reuse these rods, I have to make sure that I'm putting them all back to the same rod. Okay, I got my cap off of piston number 1. So piston number 1 and rod number 1. So I'm going to get this bearing out before I lose it. So I'm just gonna spin him around to my side and then grab it. And then put him right here. So now how I'm gonna get the rod and piston out is I'm going to get an extension. Here's my extension, and I'm going to put this extension that is very dirty, I'm gonna clean, and put it into the bolt hole right here, and then push forward once I actually get it straight in line with the crank. Just push a little bit, push it out. And there she came out, it just popped out the end. And then there out comes the piston. So I'm just gonna give her a little bit of a tug, very carefully, and there she is. It is not bent, which is great because now this is reusable. And it's very important, like I said, to keep this cap with this rod. So I'm even gonna put the bearings into it and then put these bolts back in to keep everything organized. So now, since these are both at the bottom end, I can just loosen these two off, then push that number 2 piston out, no problem. And then when I get over here, I'm going to have to rotate the crankshaft just like this, just by doing that by hand, and then bring them down to the bottom, and then I can pull it out just by doing it like that. But you have to have the bolts closest to the actual user right here, and then it makes it easy and doing everything right. Here I'm just taking all the pistons and rods out in order and keeping everything in order with putting the caps on as well, making sure everything stays together if I want to reuse these rods and pistons later. Okie dokie, she's ripped apart. And as you can see, the rods aren't bent. Wait a minute, was that bent? Let's just double check. Holy fettuccine macaroni. Holy, look at this thing. That is an accomplishment, definitely. I've never seen a rod that bent come out of one of my engines ever. So I'm impressed, to say the very least. These 3 are perfectly straight. This one has a slight bend in it. You can barely see it, but I can see it by eye just a little bit. This one's good, this one's good, this one's good. This one is slightly bent. And following up to this one, which is absolutely crunch. And the reason why I was getting that ticking noise I was talking about that I had in Michigan, that piston was hitting the crankshaft. So as you can see, there's no actual clean spot down there. This spot is clean because it's literally hitting the crankshaft. So, but overall, the crank journals look excellent. So I'm thinking that crank's definitely reusable. These definitely aren't. So this piston's definitely not reusable. This rod is obviously not reusable. This rod, garbage. Piston fine. All the rest of the pistons are definitely fine. Code is that I'm building 2 engines. One's for Red Ted and one is for the purple MX-3 for the front, to build it to match the back so I can make 1,000 horse. So since I'm building 2, I was making the decision, should I just build an engine for Ted as well and make it like 400 or 500 horsepower? All I need is rods and pistons to do so, because the KLs are very strong engines other than the rods. As you can see, I showed you, and she's bent. This happens all the time. That's a very, very good bend in it. It was obviously from abuse, but still, if that was a forged rod, that wouldn't have happened. It would have actually been able to take it. So, obviously my 2-step was a little bit hot, but for now, honestly, I'm thinking that I'm gonna build 2 engines, literally like full internals done. I've already got 2 sets of valve springs coming that are heavier, and it honestly started there, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy pistons, I've got rods. So right now I've already bought forged rods, forged pistons, and 2 sets of the actual springs. So I made a mistake and I started building it on the second one, so I might as well just continue. So, because honestly, I'm sick and tired of bending rods. Like, that's what happens every single time I bend rods, and then that it just blows up, right? So I don't want to put all this work into this engine, which is the second one, and just have it blow up. I'm having a real hard time getting this balancer off. It's really stuck on there. There she is. Now it's time to finally get the crank out, just taking off all the bolts on the bottom. They have to be loosened in sequence, and then they need to be sorted as well, because the bolts are actually different lengths and sizes. It's important to keep these bolts all separate. Believe it or not, these 2 bolts are different than these 6. And then there's these 6 that are together, and then there's all these side ones, which are all the same length. So I'm gonna just grab them, because I know all these ones are the same length, put them in a pile. And then these 2 are a different length than all these 6. They're very close in length, but they're not. They're a little bit longer, as you can see. And they're numbered differently, because these ones have 1 on the top and those have 4. And then just rip these guys out, they're all the same. They're unmarked on the end. So basically everything has marks on the end. These ones have 4, these are the 2 ones on the end I was talking about. Then there's the 6 that go down the center, and then the actual 8 that go around. It's if you think of things simply, it's all simple. So there you have it. Okay, so this is a split kink crank design. So there's literally a split right in the center of where the crank is. So what I've got to do is split that crank. So right now what I'm gonna do, I've got 2 bolts in here. One's on the actual block and one's on the bottom of the case. So I'm gonna just get my crowbar in here and then just open it up, just like so. So I just give her a little bit of a crack, breaking the seal of the RTV, because RTV is actually holding that seal. So like that is how it's not gonna spit out oil and everything. So that is what you have to actually break. You're not breaking like bowls loose or anything. You're just literally just getting the RTV loose. All right, so I'm just gonna grab the case. There we go. All right, here's the block. This is completely shaved. It has nothing in it other than the bearings that I didn't bother taking out yet. But yeah, got her off. This is a timing gear on the crank, and that was very hard to get off. It took me like 20 minutes to get off, but whatever. And the keyway was also stuck in there. So I've got to clean up all the burrs on the end, but that's no big deal. I can deal with that later. And I'm gonna have to sand this all with 1000 grit, so this actually goes back on, because there's, as you can see, quite a bit of rust there. Like that's what those black spots are, and that's why I was getting stuck. It's because the actual thing was seized on there. But the crank's looking sick, ready to go. So I'm just gonna go, and while I've got the time, I'm gonna go find another block. I've got a container here full of transmissions. So I found a block, which is sick. All right, I got the engine into the trunk of the cavity, so that's good. I'm just gonna flip it over and make sure that the cylinders are good. I'm gonna bring it into my little can I've got over here with all the stuff I've been working on today. All right, there's quite a bit of rust in there. So hopefully I'm gonna throw some WD-40 on it and just clean them up and see what I'm dealing with. Alright, so this engine is completely disassembled, so I can put that in my car, and I'm gonna get that all ready to take to the machine shop. I'm gonna get it checked, and then I'm probably gonna get this one decked, and then I'm going to do the honing. Honestly, these are the cleanest heads I've ever seen coming off a running engine. So these ones are in great condition. They have very, very low kilometers, has actual solid lifters. So this head is awesome. I've also got one there, obviously, for the other side of the V, but damn, they will be sick. All right, so here's what I got so far. This is the engine I blew up in Michigan, and this is an engine that I've had laying around for years that I blew up back when I was just front wheel drive. So this one actually does have a bit of rust in the cylinders. So I'm not sure if that can be fixed. I'm gonna sand it with 1000 grit, but I'm gonna have to get it checked by the machine shop I'm going to tomorrow and make sure. But honestly, I do not think this one is salvageable, so I'm gonna bring another block. I've also got a very good condition KLG4 crankshaft in there. So that is a lightweight crankshaft. The difference is they don't have the center lobes, and they're still balanced. So this thing is probably 7 pounds lighter. I don't even remember. So this is the lightest crank that you can get for an actual KL. So this is really good for high RPM. Here is the head I am going to get rebuilt for my fully built ZE engine for the Suicide MX-3. I'm going to rip it apart, and I'm going to keep all this stuff in order. And from what I was told, it's best to just rip it apart before it gets actually engine cleaned. But for this engine that's going into here, I'm fully building it, so I am getting a machine shop to clean it. I am getting a machine shop to deck it, but I am doing all the lapping and valve work and everything from that up. So basically, all I'm getting the machine shop to do is clean my heads, clean my engine, deck my heads, and deck my engine, and that's it. So everything else I'm doing honing and everything like that. So this is gonna be rebuilt. So I've just gotta take everything apart and keep it in perfect order, and then I'll be set. Here I'm removing all the valves, the valve springs, and retainers, keeping everything organized, and I'm also going to clean it all. Everything's done in this head. I just have everything back into the same spot, lifter-wise, because you want them to be there because they're actually shimmed from the factory on how thick it needs to be. Now I've got to get the valves out. They're already falling out. And honestly, I do not care about the valves because I am going to be putting brand new ones into this head. So I'm just gonna take them out, save them, and then order up some new valve. And I'm gonna do the exact same to this head, and then I should be ready to go for all the machine shop work. Cavalier's full of engine parts, 4 heads, 3 blocks, 2 cranks. Bringing my forged rods. These are actually powder rods, and I'm gonna get them checked, make sure they're all good to go, just in case, because you don't want anything to go wrong at this point when you're spending. All right, so basically what's going on here is I'm building 2 engines, and I am putting forged rods, forged pistons in both of them. I've got brand new ones coming from a guy on MX3 forums, and I am going to put Weisco pistons on both of them. So I've got 20 mil pins for both actual Weisco pistons. They're actually sliding pins, so that's pretty cool. It's all new to me. So this is gonna be ridiculous. This car is gonna make a lot of power. Same with Red Ted's gonna make a lot of power. Got valve train coming. It's gonna be sick. I just gotta order some stuff up, and this thing's gonna be sick. All right, I'm taking this stuff to the machine shop. So what you've just watched was literally 3 weeks before right now. So right now, I'm actually going to pick up all this engine stuff from the machine shop, and then I will be pretty much ready to go to start assembling my heads for the built engines. I have the valve train in stock, I have the springs in stock. Sweet news. So I'm pretty pumped, obviously. Gonna pick up my build that's literally gonna make 1,000 horse between the 2 engines. So I'm pumped. Decked blocks, everything from, oh man. I'm pumped. Pretty much what I'm waiting for right now is I'm waiting for pistons and I'm waiting for rods. But I do have one set of rods, so once one set of pistons comes in, I'm ready to go, because I do have the race bearings for the mains, and I do have the race bearings for the actual rods. So then I will be able to start assembling the bottom end. But for now, I can mess around with top end, and the pistons should be in soon, because I bought 2 sets of forged Weisco pistons, and they're good for all the power I could possibly ever need. They're really nice pistons. I got them all at 8.5 to 1 compression, but there's more to that later. I'm gonna show you the engines and how clean and beautiful they look, fresh from the machine shop in bags.
Forged crank will have a wider parting edge, like that.
Here's my 3 engines that I brought. This was the one with the bolts broken off in it. You didn't need that one. These ones were good. They did have rust on them, and they checked out perfectly fine, so they're looking sick. Just got back from Engines from Hell, and I've got my 2 blocks. They're all decked. I'm going to hone them so they did not get honed, which is fine by me. I'm going to be doing as much as I possibly can to both of my engines to build that 1,000 horsepower. Heads, I've got 2 heads in there for Shane, and here's some more heads. I've got lots of heads that I got decked. These ones I've already done the valve train on it, so it's basically ready to go. So this is gonna be sick, guys. Like, I am so pumped. And I got him also to clean and check my used forged rods. So we'll pull one out here. These ones have the ARP studs like I showed you. He checked them all, made sure they were good, and also threw them in the cleaner. So badass. So I told him once I get all of my engine parts from shipping, I'm going to bring everything back, which is for the rotating assembly, and get everything balanced. So I need rods, I need pistons, I need the actual rings for the pistons, the piston rings, I need the bearings, and I need a flywheel and harmonic balancer. So got lots of stuff to collect, but they should be coming soon. I ordered them months ago, so this thing's gonna be so sick. I'm gonna take my time, have fun with doing it, do lots of filming, lots of DIY engine building stuff. So we'll see you in the next one, and I'm gonna be trying for Thursdays for the uploads on the engine building. So we'll see you in the next one. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you later.